I love the live streams, dude. It's so much fun because people just come in and out. You never know who's going to jump in this. Like every now and then, like someone super fucking random or a content creator will just jump in the middle of the conversation at like minute 50 or something, and it's always fun. But anyways, guys, welcome back to the Joyage Kingdom. I'm Cage, your guy. We'll be replacing Little Voice Side Dread for now, giving you a break from the constant internal monologue that is the human mind. I want to say first, thank you for listening or viewing on whatever platform you're on. If you haven't already, smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, join the kingdom. If you're on Spaces, make sure you hit that bottom right icon. It might be white, it might be purple. It's a little message icon. Retweets, shares, likes is the easiest way to support. We do appreciate all the support. Today, I'm joined by Mo, host of the Seedphrase Daily Show. He's been literally, I don't even know how that's actually one of the topics. How the fuck are you backing so many, like, just A-list guests? You guys are fucking crushing it, man.
Appreciate it, bro. I mean, yeah, honestly, I think it's both a mixture of luck and confidence. I think I kind of came into the space and I'm like, you know what? Hold on. I got to put my phone in another room because I keep hearing myself.
Oh, yeah, you're good. That's like, fam. Most runner. I forgot that that's like a thing. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I was hearing myself twice. But yeah, what I was saying, I think it's both a mixture of luck and confidence. I think the luck is in terms of like, hey, I find the right time and the right place to reach out to these people that I like to have on the podcast. And then the confidence is like, hey, I know obviously I can challenge you to have a really great conversation. We have a great audience. We're fucking fast growing on our newsletter, which has over 10,000 subscribers right now that open up our email every single fucking day, Monday through Friday. So I think just putting all those things together and saying, hey, like we want to fucking push hard fucking content. We want to bring you on to talk about your story. It kind of just aligns and allows us to kind of bring in the people that we want to bring on.
So you got how many podcasts had you done before you had because I think I was one of your first guests, right?
Yeah, you were, bro.
Like, how did you guys start? Like that, you just said you had how many people open your newsletter a day?
Right now we have 10,000 and like 600 subscribers.
Bro, that's like huge. That's like huge, bigger than any other person or entity in the Web3. I feel like. How long has that been going?
Yeah, people are sleeping because we're like growing on a whole different platform and a whole different angle. So like when you look at our Twitter numbers, it's like very small, but it's okay because right now we're not focused on Web3 audience. We're more so focused on like Web2 and bringing people on, right? Like our goal is just to bring in people and just educate them about crypto and just help you keep up with the space. And that's why we're kind of growing our list elsewhere and not focus on Twitter. But I think now what's happening is because of our YouTube, because of our collaborations with the Twitter people, with the crypto people, with the NFT people, now the community is starting to catch up and be like, oh shit, like this guy's been doing it for a while. Oh shit, they have a dope newsletter too. So let me kind of get on board. But yeah, bro, shout out to you. Honestly, you came on, you were probably one of the first podcasts we did. We are currently at 32 episodes total right now. We started, I think, end of June of last year. And then, yeah, I mean, we're fucking going hard every single Sunday, 10 a.m. podcast going out.
Let's fucking go. And I was going to ask this as well. So you have been host. And when I came on, you had Parissa. You also had, forgive me, I forget the other guy, but you had 3 people on for that episode. I remember in ours, we had 3. I've seen other ones where it's just you. What's the deal with that? Like, is there drama on the team or is it like, what's the deal? Oh, fuck. Hold on. His audio cut out. Wait, 1 sec. No, I cannot hear you. Your audio looks like it cut out on, I can see the chart on my side in the green. It pops. There we go. It's coming back.
Yeah, it muted itself.
There we go. You're good.
No, I said there's no drama. It's all love. So when we first started the podcast or the YouTube, I guess, right? It was like, hey, Parissa, like, let's just fucking go ahead. Let's use whatever topics we're writing out in our newsletter and just talk about them in video format, right? So it kind of started off that way. And then we were like, you know what? Let's try to bring on a few guests. So I brought on some friends. Obviously, we brought you on. And then I was like, you know what? This makes a lot more sense. And then as we started to bring more people on, like, for example, on your episode, you had 3 people. It's like only 1 is engaging or only 2 is engaging. So we kind of try to find the perfect mix of like, how do we want to structure it? So yeah, Parissa right now is kind of more so focused on the newsletter, and she's just
Mhm.
making sure obviously our newsletter is like top tier, elite, the publishing, the format, the copy, and so on and so forth. And she's kind of focusing, she's spearheading that while I'm kind of spearheading the content aspect and the strategy aspect overall. So yeah, no drama. We still have the whole team on board. They're just all busy doing different things instead of all of us just doing the same thing essentially.
Right on, man. That's great to hear. Because you guys had a great dichotomy, I think. I was gonna ask this. So I remember when I was on the show, Parissa called you a crypto whale. Now I didn't know about this, and I didn't really think much of it while we were streaming. And then I remember I watched another episode. I don't remember who it was, and I saw a cause figurine that was kind of big behind you, and I was like, wait a second, is this dude balling out? Like, and then you start doing podcasts with all these finance people. And I was like, wait, do they know each other? Like, is this are you part of the ecom group? Is that you? Are you ecom?
Yeah. So in short, before like all of this NFT stuff, I pretty much built like few seven-figure e-commerce brands, and I still
Mhm.
have like two of them that are actively running, doing multiple six figures a month, not in profit but in revenue. Obviously, the profitable aspect is there, and that allows me to fund like Seedphrase Daily, right? And I
Yeah.
have like Seedphrase Daily. I have to pay everybody that's on the team. That's coming out of my pocket, right? It's not like we're overly funded or any of that, at least not yet.
Mm.
So yeah, the majority of my quote unquote wealth, right, or funds come from Web2.
Mhm.
And I founded, like, for example, my first company I founded was a solar door to door company. Like, we used to go out and used to do door to door solar sales. And we went from like zero, no t-shirt, no logo company to like having over 50 sales reps knocking doors nationwide. So like
Damn.
obviously that was like my first big bang. And then from there I kind of started doing e-commerce. And then from e-commerce kind of like elevated from dropshipping to branding, from branding to so on and so forth. So yeah, that's where the funds come from.
That's fucking crazy. Well, shout out to you for funding that, because a lot of I didn't realize a lot of the shows are funded or sponsored or something. So like because I was always like, how the fuck are they rolling out this much content? How are they doing it? And that's kind of how it goes. I was gonna ask this because there's probably a lot of people who are watching who don't know how to fucking like get anything done. Like when they look at your like y'all's content is really fucking good, especially with the captions now. I don't know who you guys got editing, but they're crushing it. Right. And so I think a lot of content creators, especially podcast hosts, when they get started, they want to do all that, but they're like, man, I don't have the funds. I don't have the time. Like what can we do? And is the answer just like do what you can and just kind of not think about the fact that everyone else has better content than you and kind of just grind until you can find a sponsor? Or what would you say to that, you think?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, I'll tell you what we've been doing, and hopefully somebody can resonate with that. I think for us, like, my first thing was like, hey, let's just get in the habit of making content, right? Who cares how good it is or how bad it is? I think anything you start, let's just make sure the first thing is you build the actual proper, healthy habit of doing it consistently.
Mhm.
From there, you start picking and choosing, what parts of that habit you want to change and edit. And that's kind of what we did, right? We were like, hey, let's just start putting out as much content as possible, as frequent as possible, and make sure it's consistent. And then from there, we're like, okay, this was working, it stopped working.
Mhm.
Now let's go ahead and kind of start engineering to what's going to be a better formula to actually get us the growth that we're looking for. So to answer your question, that's kind of what we've been doing. And then now that we have the formula, we have the consistency, now we can easily go say, hey guys, would you like to come ahead, go ahead and come sponsor us? So
Yeah.
we're starting to outreach, obviously, for these bigger Web3 brands and these crypto companies to come sponsor us. And we've been getting some good engagement and reaction to them, because
Oh
now they
yeah.
understand that, okay, we've been doing it for a long time. We've optimized what we've been doing. And now we're in a proper, healthy position to say, hey, now we can add in more sponsors and actually benefit others than us.
Dude, it seems like everyone started podcasts and shows in the last few months now, and there's some that stick out more than others. The ones that I've found that are really fun for me have actually been spaces, which I did not expect to stumble on and enjoy. Like I've been YouTube maxi forever. I've been trying to build the YouTube forever. And then I didn't expect when the market crashed to literally lose everything in terms of like, it doesn't matter if you had 600,000 people. When everyone left, you might as well have had 10,000 just because like
Yeah.
everyone's gone. And so when you look at like numbers of people with like, 100, 200,000 people, and they get like 1 or 200 people in a space, it was interesting to me. But some of the spaces that have really come out and been successful shows, in my opinion, with like Leap, with Thread
Yeah, I
Guy.
love
They're
Leap
just so, especially when they do the show together, like that is the
together.
funniest fucking combo. And I have never in my life been more entertained in a show than with like Thread Guy and Leap going back and forth. They're so funny. It's just really interesting to me, and I want to talk to you about it because you're also a podcast host. And we'll get away from the podcast host talk. We'll talk about other things, but just because I
That's
don't
fun.
talk to podcast hosts very often,
I like
what
it.
are your thoughts on the idea of content literally before maybe like 6 months ago? I didn't see as much live content, definitely didn't see as much like community within live stream spaces and community within TikTok lives. I don't know if you noticed, like on TikTok live, a lot of people are doing these like things with a green screen with a statement, and then they just argue or they debate or they have whatever. And it's like these live engaging things that everyone's doing now. It has moved into the Web3 world, and everyone's doing these shows. Are you guys going to get on spaces and start to do your own thing like that? What are your thoughts on that as far as content first being one way, content creator to audience, and now it's like content creator with audience, and it's like a little discussion style, you know?
Yeah, this is a great conversation as well here, and we can probably go on this forever. But yeah, like to go on your point, like Leap and Thread Guy, and obviously like there's a few others like Ryan Carson's spaces, and you have I think Web3 Exposed and Shillenville and Bark and all those guys. Like I think they're doing a really good job on Twitter. But at the same time, like for us, I just think it's really hard to grow only on Twitter and only on Twitter Spaces because you're not really bringing in new people, and that's why our whole strategy has been like, hey, let's bring in Web3 people for the Web3 aspect of what we want to do, which is like the podcast and talk about Web3 in general. But let's go ahead and target people in a big ocean versus in a little pool. And that's kind of been the ideal. I don't know if I answered your question. What was your question again? Sorry.
It was mainly like the idea of content being one-sided, creator to audience, and now it's switched to being discussion, participation. I talked to Easy about this because he's also a podcast host and show host.
Yeah. So I did a podcast with this guy named Calloway. I don't know if you know him. And he said this perfect explanation about community versus audience.
Mhm.
And he was like, audience is one way, community is a two-way conversation. Right.
Yeah.
Like when you're building an audience, it's you putting out content and they consume it, versus community. It's like you're putting out content, but you're also adopting and changing the content based off the community that's taking part of it. So I think it's a lot harder, obviously, because now you're not only relying on yourself, but you're relying on others to help you, right? Like when you're looking at these spaces with Leap and Thread Guy, you're not only looking at their ability to produce content, but you're looking at their ability to build a relationship, to have people to continue to show up and want to be a part of their conversation, which I think is a very hard skill to do. And I think a lot of content creators wouldn't even want to do it because it's like, it's tough, right? It's like, am I here to create content that I like, or am I here to create content that you're going to enjoy, right? So I think it's very important. I think it's a skill set of its own. And I'm excited to see obviously what happens with it, as we continue moving down the line.
Yeah, dude, it's been it was tough for me to come to terms with the fact that I need to get on. For me, I was like, I want to get on spaces just because I enjoyed it. I like after being in Leaps and Thread Guys and a few other people's and like getting on stage, especially, and talking to some of these people for a couple hours at a time, I was like, wait, this is really fun. And then I'm also a creator, so I was like, fuck, I need to do my own show. And I know it takes a long time. Like with these spaces shows, dude, like you're literally competing in real time against people with already huge audience. You're not going to jump. I mean, I can't tell you the last time I jumped in a random space with 7 people in it. Like it feels awkward, like there's already got to be 30 people in it to not feel awkward. So it's really, really probably going to be the hardest thing I've done in content yet is starting a spaces show, also on YouTube, but mainly on spaces, and trying to grow that in a bear market.
It's really hard, honestly. I don't think you should, bro. I personally, like, my approach has always been this: is like, why stretch yourself thin if you could just be really good at one thing and then expand from there, right? Because like for somebody like Thread Guy, for example, right? He did really good shit posting and writing threads and kind of building community on just writing tweets. And then from there, he's like, okay, now I want to start a space. It's not like he was trying to grow his Twitter and do YouTube and obviously do spaces. He just focused on one thing. And then through that one thing, he opened up another channel, which I think makes all the sense. Same thing for Leap. Like he's not doing fucking YouTube, TikTok, emails. He's just doing spaces, and he's doing 8-hour spaces, and nobody can keep up with him. And he's going to fucking rock and roll, right? So I think like mad respect to those guys, but I think they also understand that, hey, it's like, let's just fucking be the king at this thing. And then from there, we can expand.
Yeah, that's a great point of not spreading yourself too thin and not not maybe being self-aware of like where you stand, what the best use of your time is. Like that's definitely been a struggle for me, especially because I'm sure you know, like especially in the Web3 world. I don't know about the normal world because I've only had a business in Web3 really, but people just like you being essentially in limbo for long periods of time with like meetings that are like, oh yeah, we'll get back to you in a couple months about that thing. And so you're kind of just waiting around for a lot of these things. So a lot of things with editors, because I want to work with a team and like have an editing team, not just like hire one-offs and things like that. But you gotta be pulling in strong numbers to be able to employ someone full time. So it's a difficult thing, and trying to not run after every shiny object has been a struggle of mine because I like shiny shit and I like when I see numbers and things like that, like I run toward it a little bit. But I think it's good because I figure out what I want, and I'm only 24, so I have plenty of time. And I don't know exactly where I fit in. Like, and I think that's why I've been okay with letting myself spread thin, even though it's a little bit maybe not as productive for me. It's allowing me to kind of like find exactly where I fit. And after doing the Spaces show and the YouTube, because it's also on YouTube and it's good content for me, it's fun. And like that's the reason I haven't stopped doing it. It's only been a week, but as long as it's fun for me and people are getting value of it, then I'm down. Because I've done tea time for a super long time with Tom, and to get people who are content creators to also tune in was cool for me, because I was like, okay, that means there's some substance to the show. Let me see if I can bring this to like a daily thing and just kind of see where it goes in 6 months. So that's been kind of my thoughts toward it. But anyways, I do want to shift focus a little bit into talking about what got you into this market. You've done tons of podcasts. You've always been the guy hosting it. I haven't heard the stories yet. I'm trying to know. We just established that you're a crypto whale. So what was your first NFT, my dude?
My first NFT was actually Doge Pound.
Get out of here.
Yeah, that was my first NFT. And then obviously from Doge Pound, I got into Cool Cats. And then from Cool Cats, I jumped into like a few different random projects. I don't even remember their names. And then I remember like the My Pet Hooligan era. So yeah, those were some of my first, honestly, projects. And yeah, in terms of flip, I think my Doge Pound was like my first big flip. And I think I made like 3 ETH on it.
Wow.
And I was like, what the fuck? Like, dude, I gotta sell 1,000 orders to make 3 ETH in profit. You know what I'm saying? And like Web2 and e-commerce. So I seen that and I'm like, okay, let me get in all in and kind of like start fucking getting into NFTs. But I was pretty lucky in the aspect of, because I knew like entrepreneurs and people in the space, I was able to actually connect with like some of these early projects and help them market. Like I was able to kind of position myself as like, you know, hey, let me go ahead and help you with the strategy in terms of marketing. And I was able to help projects like Flickplay, who's in the Disney Accelerator, for example, right? Go to market, strategize them on their NFT mint, and so on and so forth. And I was able to do that like once, twice on a few different projects that allowed me to like gain an edge in the space, at least between my people here that I knew in the entrepreneur community. So that was kind of my entry to the space. And then from there, I was like, I owned Instagram pages, I owned TikTok pages, right? And I'm like, okay, how can we maximize what we have now to live beyond the bull market? I was like, okay, the biggest gap in the space is actually having a proper audience or a community that you can continue talking to. But it's not about shilling, right? Because we've seen a lot of creators obviously come into the space. They were controlling the space, the whitelist supply, the whitelist minting, right? And they made a lot of money, but they got burnt out and people started visiting their YouTube videos or their content because they know it was like very self-centric in a sense. And you can't blame those guys either, because that's just how the market was built at that time. Right. And if you were in that position, or if I were in that position, I can't say I would have seen it in other aspect besides like, hey, like I did a podcast with K Money. Is like, bro, I had people offering me $50,000 for a video. And for a lot of people, it's really hard to say no to that amount of money. Right. So not to blame them, but the moral of the story here is like a lot of people just needed a way to make life-changing money, and they seen the opportunity and they took it. So you can't blame them for that. But I understand that it's like, okay, if I want to build something special and long-term, one, I can't attach it to myself because I need the business to operate without me, right? Meaning the newsletter, it's not Mo writing it, it's Seedphrase Daily. So that was one thing. Let's build that out and let's build a brand. And then from there, let's obviously bring in people to build trust, that have experience, that have the confidence, obviously, to go in front of cameras or talk to people and say, hey, we've done this, and this is what gives us the authority to talk to you about these type of things.
W. Yeah. No. Yeah. No.
I blabbered on there. Sorry.
No. It's totally good. I feel like I'm in a Spaces show with honestly my favorite part about the Leaf Spaces, because I remember when I was watching them that I always be like, why are they so long? And then when I got in them, I love the long discussion, and I think
Yeah.
it's added like an extra layer to my podcasting game, kind of like taking myself out and watching them kind of dictate the crowd as like a true host with hundreds of people in there at sometimes. But dude, that's fucking awesome. Okay, so I want to know where you took some big L's. Like, have you had any moments in the NFT market? Like, you're probably in a better position than most people in the market, but have you ever had any moments where you were like, you know what, I'm out. Like, nah.
Yeah, I don't think. Okay, so I have lost a lot of money, not in the NFTs, but future trading. I'm not gonna lie. I've been liquidated like probably like 5 times almost, and I've lost like over like probably like 200,000-300,000, like just
Oh
trading.
my god, bro.
Yeah, so that was pretty painful. Like one of my biggest trades, I remember it was like I had a really long. It was like an ETH long, and it was like one of those capitulations in like I think it was like October, November, like um last year, I believe. Like when that big drop happened from like 40K to like 20K, and I was long, and yeah, I lost a lot of money, and I kept adding to the position because I was just like so emotionally attached to it, and I ended up losing like 75,000 in one trade, which was like really painful. Another big L was like Clone X, obviously. I had bought 3 clones at 14 ETH, and between 14 and 15 ETH. I had gotten offers on like almost all 3 of those clones for like anywhere between like 19 to 23 ETH, which at the time was like 75,000, 80,000, 90,000. And I remember I told my mom, I'm like, yo, look, like I bought this for 40, I could sell it for 70. I'm an investor, you know? And she almost got a heart attack because she's like, what the fuck are you doing with your money? And then, yeah, like 2 months after, obviously, we see the fucking ETH tank, NFTs tank. And now I'm sitting on the clones, obviously, at like 30% of their actual value in ETH and US dollars. And my mom's like, you should have fucking sold. So, so, yeah, that's like a little L story, I guess, for anybody in the audience right there. But
Does your mom, does she like know what's going on in NFT land? Does she participate at all? Is she a DGen?
no, honestly, she knows that like I fucking like I sell. So for example, I did a podcast with Sanjay from Roofstock on chain, which they're pretty much like leading the Roofstock company, obviously, which is a multi-billion-dollar company for real estate investing, but they're helping people buy and sell single-family properties online, right, via NFT tokens. So I was like telling her about it, like, hey, I just like, I just interviewed this guy, and like you can actually buy a house as an NFT, and the NFT will get transferred to you. You own the house, you get the rent, so on and so forth. So she's like, so do you have to go into the metaverse to live in this house? Is it real? Like, are you spending 200,000 on a picture? So she kind of gets the idea, the main idea, but she has no clue like what's really going on in the space.
Yeah, dude. You know what's funny? I've had more than 3 people in the last 48 hours hit me up about crypto and NFTs. It's not a joke. I heard
Yeah.
about it, or no, sorry, I saw someone tweet about it yesterday, and I was like, damn. Really? I was like, because for me, I thought for the NFT, it was too good to be true. I thought we had maybe at this point now in my prediction, probably like a couple more days before we start to trend down. That was my original prediction. I'm seeing it pretty scattered across the board. I'm seeing pretty much even spread of people that I respect saying we've got a little bit of time to keep running, and then some people saying we've pretty much hit the local top. We're pretty much going to try train downward now. What are your thoughts on that? And also, how much do the markets affect you, your company with Seedphrase, the content? Does it not matter for you because all content's content, or like what's the deal for y'all?
Yeah, great question again. I mean, I think in terms of the market, just kind of like echoing what other smart people in the space are saying, it's like we had this little pump, right? Which is obviously a lot of these ape holders essentially in these bigger assets, like pretty much staking or using their NFT as collateral and borrowing against it. I even did it as well. Like you can go right now to X2Y2. You can put your Clone X, your Doodle, your Bored Ape, any of these high collection values, and you can actually get a loan for like 5, 6, 7 ETH for 1 or 2% interest,
Yeah, yeah,
right? And you have 14 days to pretty much pay that back. And like if you borrow 5 ETH, you pay 5.1 back, which is like as a trader, you're like, dude, I can make this shit in my sleep, right? And
yeah,
that's how they
yeah.
get you. So a lot of the liquidity looks like, and again, just echoing what people are saying, a lot of the liquidity isn't real or isn't new, right? It's just pretty much like holders bored. Okay, let's fucking liquidate our assets in a sense, and let's see what we can make out of it because all these new projects that are coming out. And I think that's pretty clear. And on top of that, I think there's a lot of anticipation between like the Doodles 2 announcement that was supposed to happen, I think this month, or it's supposed to happen sometime soon. The Bored Ape Mint that's been very underwhelming, apparently, right?
Yeah.
Because people are like, yo, we don't want to fucking play a game. Like, either give us an airdrop or let us know what the fuck's going on, right? And obviously the market is just pumping out of nowhere with like no real macro sense of like why. Like, things haven't changed. The CPI is not down. Like, fucking eggs still cost $8. Milk is fucking $9. Like, you know what I'm saying? So I think it's very confusing. And I think we're definitely treading dangerous waters.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's easy for people to go in and say, hey, let me start buying shit right now, because even Wizard of Soho, for example, I heard him say on the space last night, he was like, we can see NFT specifically drop another 20-30%, especially if the crypto market's pumping, because people aren't playing both. There's not enough liquidity. And there's no new people coming into the space. At least I personally don't see new people coming into the space. It's really just the same money moving from one project to another. And it's clear because you see as soon as one project pumps, the market gets, the money gets pretty much sucked right out of it. And then it's the next project that pumps up again. So it's really the definition of a mini bull run.
Yeah.
In terms of how it affects us, dude, this is my first time I get to talk this much.
Dude, I fucking love it. I want to hear all the things.
Yeah, this is actually really dope. But yeah, in terms of how it affects us, honestly, I don't think it affects us. It does affect the narrative in terms of like, hey, are people interested in signing up for the newsletter or not? But I think we've found different angles and marketing tactics essentially to get new people into the newsletter without having the main focus be on the actual narrative of the market, but more so like, hey, crypto can be a scam and NFT can be a scam, but at least you should learn about it because it can actually help you, in 2, 3, 4, 5 years, whatever. So people are like, okay, sure, it can be a scam, but I might as well get educated so I don't get scammed, right? Like, that's one marketing angle, for example, that we use, and it's actually working.
That's a great way to do it. I was going to say that's what I say a lot of times, because people say the crypto's a scam. I'm like, sure, the crypto coins, a lot of them, sure, but the fact that like Disney, the fact that Nike, the fact that literally countries like Japan are saying, fuck it, metaverse, fuck it, the tech is there, we just got to build toward it. The timing will get there, the timing will meet the tech, and then you'll explode into a beautiful new industry. And those who got in and made the connections before it all blew up will get all the cool jobs, will get all the cool gigs, and everybody else will be scrambling for the, fucking cashier positions, basically. That's my thought process as well. So that's great that you guys are using that. And I'm very happy to know that it's working for y'all too.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's so many ways, obviously, to go about it. Like, there's a lot of other companies and people trying to grow the newsletter or just trying to grow specifically in crypto. And my single piece of advice is like, don't focus on where the audience is, at least not to start. That's where your community is, but your audience is actually on other platforms that have no clue about crypto or aren't really interested at the moment.
Yeah, I would agree. It's tough. I've seen a little bit on the stats that some new people are coming in, but it's nowhere near the level of numbers we need to see for anything significant to happen. But I will say, like, I don't know how many times we had like the .com booms, and when I say that, I mean like the small mini booms all in around those probably that whole decade of time. So I do think it's sometimes I hear a lot of people say we'll never see anything like 2021 again. I'm inclined to think opposite. I think there's no reason we wouldn't see another massive run up when there's a ton of money, the money printer's publicly back on, and people are talking about the fact that there's money being printed, and everyone throws and becomes a degen again, especially with like every time we have a small rally, people literally forget all the fundamentals. They forget everything they've been like telling themselves in the bear market and they literally revert back to a degen instantly, including myself. That's why I know that it happens to other people, because it happens to me, and I'm like super fucking focused on making sure I don't make the same mistakes.
Yeah, like funny enough, over the last 2 weeks, I made this new group chat, and it's an iMessage Alpha, and it's like the new meta that I like to make it because it's like, fuck Telegram, fuck Discord, fuck Twitter. We're just gonna do iMessage Alpha, and we have some of like the best scholars in the space on it. It's like 20 of us right now, like, my boy Mishu, CK, the 3-2 group, obviously. We got Jet, my boy Hacks. So we got a lot of these like great fucking alpha callers that are like really good at what they do and finding projects, and we're all in it. And yeah, we're starting to make some good flips, obviously, in the market. And I forgot where I was going with this, but yeah,
You're talking about the new alpha groups on iMessage.
So like that's kind of like the new meta, I would say. But trading, like, okay, so for example, like last bull market, I don't think I was trading in a group as much as I was trading individually. So I think if you are to make money right now and you were to go in like hard believe, like, okay, this is a mini bull run, let me try to extract as much value out of it, you're better off doing it as a group. And then in terms of fuck, my brain just froze here. What was the what were you just
Trading in
talking
groups versus trading in individuals, making better
No,
decisions.
before that, you mentioned something that I was going to touch on. I completely forgot. Dude, I haven't
Uh,
ate today. I've only been on water fast only, so that's probably why
Yo,
my.
me too. I got Chipotle in the fridge. I'm going to be eating right after this. I went to the gym, came back, had to do a couple things. So I feel you there. I don't remember what I was going to say either. I was going to say, unless you have something else to say about that piece, there was a direction I wanted to take it because you mentioned the word meta. I'm not talking about Facebook, but for 2020. So yeah, is there anything you wanted to say after that?
Yeah, no, that's good. But yeah, if I
Cool.
remember, we'll go back to it. But
Yeah. Honestly, if you do, just interrupt me and we'll just go right back to it. We'll just pin it. We'll just pin the other one. So I remember, I think it was Sebastian Georgiou. Is that how you say his last name?
yep.
So y'all had interviewed them. You'd interviewed him, and you guys got around to the topic of the red pill movement, which is very interesting to me because I've noticed a lot of people that I follow, especially the business people, the entrepreneurs, they're much more inclined to side with the red pill narrative, whatever the word is, or at least portions of the red pill narrative. Maybe not every single statement made by those kind of people. Like I've seen Andrew Tate blow up. Obviously, we had like Iman Godsey, some of those online ecom people. I saw them start to make a bunch of red pill content because it was hitting. I think that it was probably just because like they always wanted to make that kind of content. It was just one of those things they couldn't say it before because they would get crucified if they did. But now they had someone who was taking all the hits, so they were like, okay, now I can talk about these things, which is cool because there's a lot of great things in the red pill stuff that I think is really good for men. And I've noticed, the last couple of years, there was a push for the opposite swing. I'm not surprised that we swung all the way back into the other direction, and we'll probably meet right back in the middle where we all started, and then we'll have to figure out where we go from there. What do you think is going to be the meta for 2023? Because in 2022, towards the end, for men at least, it was like a bunch of Andrew Tate, a bunch of do more push-ups, a bunch of get your shit on track, stop smoking weed, and get your shit done. I'm all for that. Is 2023 going to be more of that? Is it going to be nonsense? Is it going to be a swing back to the direction? Like, what do you think is going to happen?
Yeah, that's a great question. I truly don't know, but if I were to guess, um, I think it's going to be more of a year of pain. I think because it's like the last few years, it's been like preparing us for the pain, right? Essentially, like, yo, get your shit together, like, be motivated, be healthy, take your red pill, work out, do this, do that, like, kind of like what you mentioned. But I think this year it's going to be like less about like, hey, you guys should do this, and it's like you're going to actually get to see like who's actually been doing it and who hasn't, and it's going to be a year of pain where a lot of people are going to disappear and fall off, and they don't want to be as public as they were, and then a lot of people are obviously going to kind of cream to the top or rise to the top, and you're going to be able to kind of like see this new class of entrepreneurs, of influencers, of creators, just all across the board, because it's like the people who are really hungry, they have nothing to lose but everything to gain, are really going to rise to the top and start producing very hard content, because it's like it's that time, right? So it's like the last few years we've already been used to seeing the same faces, right? So it's like every 3 to 4 years, kind of like high school or college,
Yeah.
whole new group of humans come into this space, and they're the ones who shape it. And I think that's what's happening right now. Like I think a lot of us, for example, are starting with crypto and Web3. I can easily see somebody like you, for example, with your vlogging, like beating up somebody as big as like Mr. Beast or David Dobrik, right? If you go all in on vlogging, for example. And I'm just throwing this out here as an example, by the way. So yeah, that's what I think is going to happen. I think we're going to see a lot of people disappear and a lot of new people appear. What that meta is going to be, I'm not too sure, but I think the main scene of the year is going to be around pain. And we're kind of already starting to see a lot of that.
How about like behaviors and something maybe not as related to like a Web3 world, but more behaviors in human beings and people in content creation? Are we going to move more into the content social media world where people are engaging more and more virtually? Are we going to have a push back to human being interactions again? Like, do you see us going back and forth through it? Are we just going to, is there a point where we get too digital and everything becomes like a digital way of communicating with each other? Is there no way back once we hit that kind of point?
I don't think so, honestly. I truly don't think so. I think the AI hype is going to die very soon because it blew up very quick, and anything that goes up that quick is going to die even quicker, right? It's kind of like a shit coin. So I think the AI narrative is going to die, and I think AI, it's best going to be used the same way crypto is going to be used when you don't really feel it, right? It's nobody really wants to go in, and I don't think it's going to work in terms of like the sense of, hey, I'm chatting to a fucking bot all day and it's going to tell me whether the answer is right or wrong or fucking write a script for me. It's more going to be like what Microsoft's trying to do or what Apple's trying to do is like, hey, let's go ahead and integrate it in our software where if you're talking to Siri, like Siri's AI one, right? If this is ChatGPT, then Siri was number one, right? So I think that's what's going to happen. Like more of these companies and these tools that we already use are going to implement AI in a sense where we don't even feel it, and it's just going to enhance our performance and our experience on these platforms. But I don't see us changing platforms. It's like saying, you're going to move away from Instagram to the next big thing. Well, TikTok came, nobody came off Instagram. They're using both, right? Or TikTok just went for a completely different audience. So yeah, for 2023, I just think it's going to be a very interesting year in terms of just macroeconomics, new people just coming in and out of the internet age. And I think there's going to be a lot of new innovation that's not really going to rise to the top until probably later on in the year or next year.
What are things that you pay attention to? Like, what takes your attention? You've made more money than most people will ever make in their entire fucking life 20 times over. What are the things that take your attention? Can anything get your fucking attention other than beautiful JPEGs that are roaming around? Like, what can get your attention nowadays? Like, what are you watching? What kind of content? What kind of spaces are you jumping into? Or like, what are the conversations you're having?
Yeah, I'm honestly a very simple guy. I don't really leave the house. I like to stay online as much as possible, and I like to work on myself more than anything else.
Yeah,
But
me too. Me too.
like for example, my average week of learning is like listening to My First Million podcast. I love fucking Sam Parr and Sean Puri. Like, been listening to them for so long. I listen to the All In podcast, tune into the Nifty Boys. And then from there, honestly, I just go out, play sports, have talks about business, real estate, different arbitrage opportunities, what people are making, how they're getting better connections, so on and so forth. And yeah, I get right back to it, and I have a goal, and I want to hit that goal. And once I hit that goal, I kind of move on to the next thing. So I see all the hype, I see all the trends. Obviously, I'm very aware of what's going on in different markets, and I try to stay as updated as possible. But I just try to stay in my lane because it's not about shiny object syndrome. It's about, okay, I know my lane and I know what I'm good at. So let me just keep focusing on that and learning everything about how I can improve in that specific lane particularly.
Would you say that mindset is shared amongst your peers who also have accomplished more or less around like what you've done in terms of like y'all have crushed it with your own businesses? Do they also share a similar mindset? Are there any friends that you have that hit your level and said, peace, bye, business is good, I'm done, I'm retired, I'm going to go pick up fucking racquetball or something? Like, has anyone done that?
No, it's definitely not. And it's easy to draw like an analogy to somebody everybody knows. Like, for example, Luca, right? Like from Budgie, it's like, he did Von Dutch, the hats, seen him do that. Then obviously, he did Gel Blasters. I seen him do that. And then from there, like, that was going to be the thing he was going to do for quite a while. And then, like, NFTs came and he's like, nah, fuck that. Let me do NFTs, right? So I think anybody at least that has kind of the same mentality as I do personally, I don't want to speak for anybody, but they're never really satisfied or comfortable. Like, they're happy that they accomplished what they did, but they always want to do more. And, I said this on a podcast before with Luke Belmar. I'm like, I challenged him. I'm like, I kind of made it clear that I personally think like your success in life is always contributed to the impact that you do on a wide scale, right? How do you impact as much people as possible positively? And that's where your life is measured and how much far ahead you will get in life. Somebody who's obviously scamming, for example, and sending out phishing links, yeah, they can make a lot of money, but their life and their exponential growth is not going to happen. Right? You're never going to see that because they're always going to be hiding. They're always going to be scared. They are always going to know that they're not doing the right thing. Versus somebody like you, for example, like our definition of value is like, or one aspect of how we provide value is by putting out content that inspires others to either get started, learn more, get educated, invest in themselves, invest in another NFT or asset, whatever, so on and so forth. So in a sense, you're kind of being a voice for those people who are lost, right, on the internet all over the world. Like there could be a kid in Africa listening to us right now, and hopefully, obviously, that motivates them. So that's adding value, right? Yeah. So I think, like for me, my mentality is always like, okay, I know how to add value with a product, which I've done that multiple times over and over again. And now it's like, let me add value with my voice, and then let me add value, obviously, with a brand and in a specific space. So that's kind of the goal is like, how can I provide or impact as many lives as possible? And if I could just make them aware of a specific opportunity or a specific mindset shift, then I think I'll do my job and I could sleep at night very happily.
Do you think there are people, because I have a similar mindset there, do you think it's possible for someone with this mindset to be able to work towards that second dream without, or like, how do I say this, to put off the philanthropic efforts of value in life and contributing to the world with like getting your finances done first? Do you think it's better to get your finances out first before you, for example, get like a long-term girlfriend or go and attack some of these things that you want to chase after, like your passion? Should you take care of the money side first? Is there a line where you're like, okay, that's enough money, now go? Like, what are your thoughts? Or is it pretty much just go at your own pace? It's different for everybody.
Yeah, that's a great question. And this is something that stuck with me for a long time. Like when I was doing door-to-door sales, we used to have the saying. We used to say every single morning, you get paid the proportion of the problem you solve every single day, right? So if your job and if you're not making, like, here's an example. So let's say you work at McDonald's, right? And you're the cash register. Well, you're solving a very small problem, which is like, hey, I'm telling somebody who's hungry and somebody in the kitchen to make a burger and give it to them, essentially, right? So that hunger problem is very small and can be solved anywhere. So you're only getting paid to that proportion of that small problem. Versus, let's say, I was doing door to door sales. Okay, so I was solving the problem of, let's say, um, energy crisis, right? Global warming, carbon. I'm saving you money, so on and so forth. So that's a pretty big problem. And I used to get paid $3, $4, $5,000, per deal for getting a deal for somebody to go from non-solar to solar, right? So that's a bigger problem that I was solving. I was getting paid for it. So what I'm trying to get to is here, like, you need to find the vehicle that aligns with your values and then it also solves a problem so you can actually make the money that you want. Because if you're working as let's say a 9 to 5 job and your only focus is to make money, then just look at the problem that you're solving or look at the vehicle that you're in, okay, and be like, okay, is there any opportunity for me to make real money or the money that I want to make here? And if there's not, then obviously you need to shift to a different vehicle that solves a different problem that gets you paid, in the of the value that you want to add. And I'm not trying to be philanthropical here. I can't even fucking say the word and say like, yo, you should fucking focus on impacting people and saving the world. It's like, no, it's just the vehicle that you're in and what you do every day either solves a problem or it does solve a problem. It's too small, then you need to go in order to get to where you want.
Dude, two things. A, facts as much, and I was gonna follow up with that. I was gonna say also, do you mind checking your audio things? It keeps swapping between two. It goes from like the mic to like your computer or something, and it keeps swapping like in the middle of sentences. Just like, it might be set on like an auto where it's just bouncy, whichever one's like a better connection. But
yeah, you're good.
Cool. Right on. So you just gave us some serious finance alpha as to like how the world really works, which I found out this year as well. Like when I was offering the Brilliant Honest reviews and doing tons of them, unpaid and paid, some were commissions, they were all disclosed. And I realized that like it was all dependent on like how much your shit was actually valued. Like, do people need this video? Do people value the review plus a little bit of exposure because it's going on YouTube? Is that actually valuable to them? And I was like, well, yeah, because they're doing all these promos. There's a lot of projects with, tons of hype that don't mint out because they don't actually have any depth to the project. They have not done any, worthwhile promotional efforts. And in my opinion, it was a great move. The business was booming for a long time. It's still doing okay. Honestly, it survived longer than I thought it would into this bear market. Like in June, July, I was like, damn, well, that was a good run. But no, it was a good time.
Yeah.
All right. So I want to shift focus a little bit into the world of you before all this shit happened. So how long have you been chasing money? Because I've talked to a lot of people who love business in general or content or something like that. They started hella young. I did not start hella young. I started doing content hella young. And every single cent I made, I basically spent on soccer balls or camera or something because I was making soccer videos. But like I never had any desire to make more money until I was like literally 21 years old or something.
Yeah. My story is honestly pretty crazy and not a lot of people know this. So I was born in Boston, obviously, when I was a little kid. And I moved when I was like 6 or 7 years old back to Syria, which is an Arabic country. It's a small country, obviously, where we barely have access to internet. Like you have to hit a fucking coffee shop to get internet. I had no clue what sushi was. Like we don't eat food like that or any type of seafood. Like that wasn't a thing, right? All we eat was goat and cows. I lived on a little farm. Then we had like a little apartment. I used to live with my grandma. And I came back to America when I was a sophomore in high school. So I was about 14 or 15 years old. And when I was in Syria, to answer your question, like, everybody there is an entrepreneur in the sense of like the whole world, the whole economy runs on like family businesses. So it's like you grow up, your uncle had a butcher shop, your dad has a supermarket, and then it's like a gas station. So it's like they all work for themselves. There's no corporations, right? So you see that as growing up. And I remember I used to like go to middle school. And I used to sell like fucking these like little gooey balls. I used to sell like fart bags, like Swiss Army knives. I used to even fucking sell sandwiches at some point.
Where'd you get all this stuff from?
There used to be like these flea markets back in Syria where I used to just take my bike and I used to go to the flea market and I used to like get all of these fucking toys and I used to try to sell it to the rich kids and the kids who didn't have a bike or just didn't have access to the flea market because obviously I lived next to it. So I guess that was like my first time like trying to make money, right? Because I've always been in the the type where my dad was like, not that my parents took anything away from me, but they've always kind of like incentivized and pushed me to like be my own boss, right? In a sense. So I think as a kid, like I always try to do that. And my first business, Mo copied my haircut.
Pasta, shout out Pasta.
Low key, bro. Low key, shout out Pasta. But what was I saying? Yeah, my first so that was like my first kind of like poke at entrepreneurship, right? Just selling small things. And then from there, I remember I found this bootleg watch store, right? Back in Syria. And they used to have like these G watches, the Swatches, the Swiss, like the Ferrari watches and shit. And I used to be able to get them for like $20. And I used to go to school and sell them for like $100. Right?
Damn, let's go.
They used to have like the boxes and everything. They were like the best like bootleg fucking watches you can ever find pretty much. And that was like my first business, right? And then from there, unfortunately, like a few years after, obviously, I kind of kept like doing small flips and things like that. But by like 2011, I believe, a war started in Syria. So it was like a huge civil war. Like there's tanks, like army people, fucking demonstrations, like all the protests, all of that was happening. So my parents were like, hey, we need to get out of here now before it's too late, right? So luckily, because we had obviously like the US citizenship, we were able to come. So I came here in 2013. It's been like 10 years now, obviously in America. And I kind of like had to do the same thing over. I'm like, okay, I'm starting here. There's no way I'm going to fucking like, you watch these movies. I remember like watching these American movies, for example. And it's like, it's always about like, he builds his own empire, like Wolf of Wall Street, for example. So it's never been like I came to America. I'm like, oh, I'm going to fucking be a doctor. I knew I wasn't going to be a doctor. I knew there's no way I'm going to be a lawyer because I hated school in the first place. I only used to go for sports and obviously like meeting with friends. So what can I do? Figure out entrepreneurship. And from there, I kind of just started like looking around. What can I sell? I got into shoes and sneakers. So I started flipping a lot of sneakers and Jordans and limited releases. And then from there, obviously just got into the full aspect of entrepreneurship and just different games of entrepreneurship, right? Whether it's door sales, kind of building up my skill sets there. So that was kind of like the story here. And then, yeah, I guess to answer your question, like my first business, that was like the watch business. And then from there, when I came here in high school, this is really funny. My first high school I went to here, my sophomore year, the first year I went there, I was like, I'm going to do a fucking clothing line. Okay. So I drew this sick ass panda and it had a blunt and a bottle. All right. And the panda. And I think that would have been a dope ass NFT, honestly. NFTs were
Bro, you got to bring it back.
Yeah. And I named it HMD. Well, HMD obviously can stand for hold my, you know what I'm saying? Or I was like highly motivated descendants, but I knew it was going to go viral because it was a dope ass fucking mean mugging panda. It was a bottle and a blunt. And I made the hoodies, bro. And I sold over 500 hoodies in my high school. I sold so many hoodies, bro, because people fucked with it so hard that like one of the deans was like, yo, you're like starting a gang. And I was obviously like, I was a troublemaker and I was always skipping classes. So they wanted to find a way to pick on me. So they were like, yo, this hoodie is promoting drugs and violence and people can't wear it in high school no more, bro. So they had to ban my fucking hoodie, bro, from being in school, bro. That's how crazy this shit was. That was like one of my first like real like, wow, I can fucking do anything I want when I first came to America. And then from there, obviously I was like, okay, now how can I sell online? And then, from there, obviously the game kind of escalated. But yeah, that was a pretty fun time.
Dude, that's fucking crazy. I'm so happy you went in depth on that story. That's fucking nuts. I had no idea you're from that you lived in Syria for a long fucking time.
Yeah.
That's wild. That's actually kind of interesting because I feel like a lot of people that have had experience living other places not in the US, kind of to go a little bit back into that red pill movement stuff, like a lot of them don't have nearly as many issues with some of the things that people like Entertain have said in the past, just because they're like, yeah, well, it's kind of a little bit different over there, which is really interesting. And then also in regards to what you're saying about how you were like a little bit of a troublemaker and you were like making a bunch of money and all these things, I think one of my I don't have too many regrets because of the whole cliche "you would not be who you are today" type of thing, but I definitely had a huge lack of self-confidence in pretty much my entire life until like the latter half of high school, like junior year, senior year, when I just got cocky because I got good at soccer. I started working out and stuff like that. But before that, like my self-confidence was so low that I was too scared to get into arguments, too scared to push the boundaries at all in literally any situation ever. I was just like hands off a little bit. My dad was kind of the same. So I think I just like naturally was a bit more standoffish in anything, even if it was something I was really excited about. That's dope that you actually stuck with it and you like kept selling these hoodies. You probably knew in the back of your head that, you know, at school, I don't know, like I don't know how it would go at that school, but like my school definitely would have banned that shit too.
Yeah, for sure, bro. Like I had to make a clean version, but nobody wanted the clean version. I was like, bro, nobody wants a fucking panda. Like, the
Exactly,
whole
dude.
panda was drunk and hot, you
Dude, you
know?
get. Well, I was gonna say you guys literally could, and you maybe should drop a project like Rug Radio did. And I would, dude. I love the idea of a underdog. Like, I love the fact that now I get to tell people that my project, my NFT art pieces, dropped over like almost a year and a half ago now at this point, and I sold them all for like 50 to $100 basically, and they've traded for upwards of 3,000
Wow.
sometimes, and hundreds and thousands sometimes. And it's so cool because I get to say like some people bought in at $50 and it was sitting there for like a whole year at like 50 to $200 basically. Now you can't, like, that would be a really cool story if you guys sold all these Seedphrase NFTs really cheap, and then in a couple of years you guys have built up this brand, and now they're crushing it.
Yeah, that's definitely the goal, honestly. And we have some stuff planned out probably towards the end of the year, but it's not the main focus right now. But yeah, it's definitely coming. There is going to be some Seedphrase apps, obviously NFTs, and so much more. And we're cooking it up, but I'm just waiting for the perfect time in terms of when I feel really comfortable and there's going to be a lot of demand for it, which we're not ready yet. But a funny story that came to mind is like, well, not story, but like thing, you know, you kind of said like, you know, you've kind of been underconfident, I guess, growing up, or like you were just like, you know, not overly confident. I think for me, bro, it's been the opposite. My whole life, I've always been overconfident, and I don't know where I got it from because my parents aren't like that. Like my siblings aren't like that.
Did they love you? Did they tell you they love you and stuff like that?
Yeah, I think they did
That
from what I.
helps. My best friend was the same, bro. His family was really nice to him in the sense that they were always like, my kid can do anything, Dalton. I love you. I support you. Like, they like communicated that. And I think that one difference, which is why I'm huge on communication now, that's literally, I think, the reason. Because Dalton, who's my childhood best friend, lived right across the street from me my whole life. He came out totally, he's always been different. He's always been hella confident because he had no other reason not to. I just never had that coming in. I think that's part of the reason.
Yeah, well, I definitely had a lot of reasons to not be confident because I used to get whooped by my parents for every time, like for falling in trouble. So, like, literally with a belt and a fucking and a stick. But I don't know where I got it from. I personally think it's from movies. Because back in Syria, for example, like when I was like 13, I was like fucking getting bootleg movies from under the fridge and like literally watching like rated R movies as 13. And I always like seeing like The Matrix, for example, and how Neo moved, and like hearing obviously all these stories and like watching, you know, these superhero movies. And I'm always been like, yo, I am that guy. I don't care what anybody thinks. And I'm going to be fucking overconfident 10 out of 10 times. And it's gotten me in trouble. And it's gotten me obviously in places where people think like super egotistic or like selfish and whatever the case may be. But I think you're better off being overly confident in yourself and your abilities and in your future and being driven by that than not being confident at all. So
yeah. So you said after watching those shows and movies, you would say that's me. I would say I want to be that. That was the difference. You were like, I'm that. And I was like, I want to be that, but I'm not.
literally, yeah.
That's fucking awesome. Dude, it's funny because I also watched a lot of superhero movies growing up. But any movie where there was like a dominant character who was a beast and goes and conquers stuff. And I literally watched those because I always would just like fantasize and be like, I want to be that one day. And I think after like the past year or two with like YouTube, and getting attention and like getting followers, getting recognized by certain people that I used to look up to, things like that has been really cool. And I've just kind of, after being in the game for a while, I realized that there are pretty much no situations where it's glory and fucking, celebrations and ribbons, like, and people celebrating for you. Like, it's a long process, and not, how do I put this? Like, a lot of the stuff is kind of like, in my experience. Like, a lot of the stuff's been kind of and it hasn't been nearly as glorious of a line, I guess. Kind of excavating and pioneering your own way. It's been a lot of nonsense, bullshit, being broke sometimes, like really, really kind of scrapping through some of the things. I'm really happy because, and looking forward to in 5 years from now, be able to look back and say, wow, that was a sucky part of my life. I'm glad I got it done. Because I think everyone has to go through that period of work at some point in their life,
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, bro, I've slept on couches for 3 years. I've lived in houses with 15 people for a 3-bedroom house. Like, I've shared couches with fucking other guys, and beds. So, yeah, I think what's really enjoying about that is just the idea of like you get to find out your own potential and you learn the most you can out of yourself, where you won't do that working a job and being comfortable and getting paid every single week or whatever the case may be. Right. And I think there's that type of addiction, like for people like you and I, where it's like we hate, for example, those moments where you feel broke, you feel helpless, and you feel like it's really boring. But you love those small times where you get recognized and you're like, dude, like this means the fucking world, right? And I think those few milestones that you get along the way, like making your first $1,000 online, and then you get your first $1,000 day, and then your $100,000 day, and whatever the case may be, right? It's like those short-lived moments make up for all of those bad times, but those bad times help you get to those good moments. And I think that's kind of the beauty of being an entrepreneur in a sense, right? In this new modern world, is you just get to value those specific times like more than anything else.
Dude, that was fucking well put right there. That was very well put. I'm glad you said it that way, and I think a lot of people would resonate with what you said. I think there's like a line, maybe a mental line, that a lot of people who are still actively grinding to get to that whatever goal is in their head, where they see people who have already accomplished it or are a little bit closer, and they almost feel like a separation between the two. So to hear people that are who have achieved some of the things that they want and are like, no, I remember being broke. I remember, living on couches or whatever. I remember, like, for me, I remember living in a car, having like actually $7 to my name and being like, wow, I'm at a Walmart parking lot because this is where I'm at. And I literally cannot buy dinner. So I'm just going to not eat today. Like, those kind of feelings, when you remember them, is very vivid. Like, I'm glad I have those memories. Mainly just for myself, for perspective, and to remind myself that there's a fucking lot to be grateful for. I'm glad I live in the city. Like, I know you're out there in Florida. I'm in Seattle. Every single time I step out of my apartment, I literally every single time, I've said this before, I step out of my apartment and I immediately get hit with a fucking wave of just happiness and gratefulness to be living in the city. I fucking love the city, dude. And it's made my life tremendously better just from being here.
100%, bro. Yeah, there's nowhere like the city, for sure. Like, the city just gives you abundance. Like, you walk out and you feel the aura of abundance, and like, especially if you're living in a sunny city like Miami. Like, I've lived in LA, I lived in Boston, I lived in Rhode Island, a little bit in Chicago. So I've kind of moved around quite a while. And yeah, I think one thing I've realized is like any city that there's sunset and good weather in, the aura is always a 10. Like, the abundance is always at a level 10. And that really helps you with like clarity, mind, and creativity, and just knowing that there's abundance out there. Let's go fucking get it.
You think you're going to stay in Florida for the time being? You think you're going to move back to Boston? Did you like Boston, by the way? Because I thought about moving to Boston or New York for at least like 6 months to see if it was fun.
Yeah, Boston's really cool, but it's just too cold. I hate the fucking cold. I've been in the cold long enough, and I think, yeah, I'd rather just go to Boston for a week or two than live there all year round.
True. So I imagine you love Florida then, because it's always hot.
Yeah, it's hot. It's full of hot people. And yeah.
Yo, okay. So I forgot to ask this when you were talking about, when you told me your story on the come up, especially like in high school, selling the hoodies, because we went in a different direction. But I wanted to bring that back real quick. Yo, did you focus on anything else other than that stuff in high school? Were you chasing girls at all? Were you chasing sports? Like, were you trying to do college at all? Was anything else on your radar?
Yeah, like I was playing sports. I played football and basketball. And then I did a little bit of swimming and baseball. I wasn't great at those, but I did make the team, so that was good. But yeah, I was playing sports, and I was really just playing sports to kind of like make relationships and friends, because that's all I cared about. Like I literally remember like I've never studied for a test. Like I used to always just go to the fucking test. I used to just take it. I used to always pass, and my goal was just get through school. Like I never wanted to fucking study for school because I just hated it and it was so pointless. So to answer your question, was I focused on anything else? The only thing I was focused on was getting through school so I can do what I want to do with my life, because my parents kept telling me to go to school.
That's really interesting, dude. That's really interesting. Man, I was hopelessly chasing girls my whole, probably my entire life, because I couldn't get them until I was like my junior year. And I was always like, well, how the fuck is that dude? How's Colin always getting all the girls? Like, what does he do besides the fact that he's 6'2", plays baseball, and is super attractive? Like, I don't get it. Like, what's the difference? I'm a 5 foot, at that point, probably like I was probably 5'4" or something. I was like, I'm a 5'4" like Asian kid who plays soccer. Like, what do I have? I don't have a chance at this. I remember thinking those thoughts. So that's really funny. When was your first relationship? Like, or have you had one? Or like, I don't even know. I don't even know.
I only had one relationship. And that was probably like my first year of college, I think. That lasted for like a few years, but it's just like, for me, obviously, I'd rather just wait until I get married or find the person I want to get married. And it's like this new thing that came to my head like last 3-4 months. And this new idea is like, dude, why do people date to get married if you could just get married first and then figure out the shit later?
Bro, Ben Shapiro said this shit one time. Please expand on this, because this makes no fucking sense in my head. So I would love to know how you say this.
So I come from an Arab country, right? And like in Arab countries, like there's no such thing as like dating, right? It's against like culture and religion. What you do is like, you're like, hey, here's this girl. Like, what are your goals in life? Okay, here's this. What's your status? This is your status. Okay, here's a girl, similar status, similar goals in life, so on and so forth. Go ahead and you get married to her, right? So you pretty much do an engagement. Once you get engaged, you talk to her for like however much long you want, and then you get married, and then you figure it out. And my parents literally did that, and then they got married, and then it's fucking been 40 years, right? So you come obviously to the West, right? This Western ideology, and it's like, oh no, you don't want to get married. Like, you want to date, you want to take your time, you want to get to know the person. But it's like, bro, if the end goal is to get married, why would you keep pushing your goal all the way back until it doesn't happen?
Because we love to procrastinate.
Right? So my mentality is this now. I'm like, dude, I don't want to date. I don't like need a girlfriend. I don't need a fucking hubby. I just need somebody that's like motivated about their life. They know where they want to go. Let's get married today and let's figure out the shit later. Like,
bro, are you gonna find that in Florida, my dude?
Bro, I don't think it's in Miami. That's why I have my mom helping me out. She's in Facebook groups. She's in fucking. She's searching. Man. She's looking for an Arab group.
W mom right there, bro. That's fucking clutch. All right, so wait, tell me about this. Tell me how close the family dynamic is. Is it close? Is it weird? Is it better? Has it gotten better since you've grown up?
Yeah, I think growing up, like, because as a kid, I think a lot of people can relate to this. Like, growing up, I think you always think your parents hate you because they make you do things you don't want. So I can easily like think back of times where I literally used to remember like putting my head in a pillow. I'm like, dude, why do my parents fucking hate me? Like, what am I doing wrong? Right. I think growing up, like when you start looking at all those lessons you learned from those experiences, you're like, wow, my parents really, all they wanted was to see me win. Yeah. So I think like, yeah, over the last like years, as I grow up and as I kind of get further from them and do my own thing in life and move out and you know, do these other things successfully, I started to realize how much I miss them, and I'm so grateful for them. So I think it's very important to have a relationship like that with your parents. If you can, obviously some people have fucked up situations, so I don't want to speak to that. But yeah, for me, like family is everything. I love my mom, my dad, bro, my whole family. And I think it's really important to nurture that relationship.
Where are they at? Have they joined you in Florida? Are they like across the seas?
They live in Boston right now.
Oh, they're in Boston. Got it. Makes sense. Damn, that's fucking cool to hear. I think people wait, because I'm 24 right now, so I feel like I'm still in the transitional period. Like my parents are still transitioning out of being parents and just being like normal people again. Especially my mom, because I'm half Japanese, and so my mom like is fucking. She's about as American as it gets for a Japanese person because she's lived here for like 30 years, but she's still like hella Japanesey and conservative and like, you know, very nervous about a lot of things, has a lot of anxiety, and she's got like a fucked generational trauma line from her parents. Like her dad was in the World Wars. He was like never there. Her mom basically like had to do dad and mom at the same time. So she has a very, very, very different mindset for parenting than my dad, who's fucking white as it gets. He's from like Ohio or Illinois or something. He's like, his mom was like, okay, like we'll see you in 12 hours. Like, please come back alive. You'll have dinner. Like that was like the extent of it. So completely different styles. And they're still like, my mom literally at 22 or 23 had me. So she was literally younger than me now and has a child now, doesn't know what she's doing. There's no internet or TikTok to show what you're supposed to do, what not to do. She literally only has her experience with her mom. And she's fucking traumatized from that. So like we're literally in the middle, like my sister's 20 or 19. We're all in this transitional period of like trying to break out, becoming our own people. My parents are trying to remember who they were. And it's a very interesting time to be alive, man. And like, I love the fact that these conversations are happening now so people can have more perspective, you know?
Yeah. And I think it's really good to understand that dynamic. I think you touched on a really good point in terms of like your parents get to get their life back in a sense before you can, right? Or at least try to kind of give life another chance. So like right now, obviously my mom doesn't have to worry about raising us or feeding us and so on and so forth. So like, literally like last week, she just started like, this knitting business and she likes knitting, right? And she just wants to do it because it's fun. And then obviously she likes also cooking. So she started an Instagram page that's like gluten-free mom, right?
Oh.
So it's like really cool to see obviously my parents like kind of adapt and be like, okay, now I have more time for myself and they're kind of like doing their hobbies and what they like. And I think it's really important to also help support them because they supported you obviously with your hobbies in your life growing up. So now you see them trying to do things they're not comfortable at and they're not good at. I think it's really important to obviously go ahead and show support and be like, yo, mom, I got you. You know?
Yeah, for sure. Have you bought, you don't have to answer this, but like, have you bought anything cool, very sentimental or very like a wild gift for your parents or someone that you care about that's close to you?
Yeah, I bought my mom a few things. Same thing for my dad. But mostly, honestly, it's been like just giving them like money, honestly. And I kind of let them do their own thing. And yeah, I've given my parents a good amount of money that has made them really happy. And has made myself pretty happy too.
Okay, yeah, I bet that feels fucking good, dude, to be able to give back to them because, I mean, I'm sure it's hard for them to accept. I know if I was a dad and my kid gave me money or something, I'd be like, this is weird, but like, I mean, I guess I'll take it, but like, this is kind of weird, but they're probably so stoked for you because like, I can't believe my son is able to do something like this for us. And honestly, just have the perspective and the love and kind of like the maturation to be like, no, I should give some of this back to my parents. They worked really fucking hard. Like when I hear the Gary Vee story up until literally this year, I always bought the story, but it never fully resonated with me until I saw the podcast with his best friends and I saw some just various clips of him talking with his parents and realized that his story of like, I built this business to give back to my parents because I love them was like actually true. And then when I've talked to people who have been able to give back to their parents after, quote unquote, making it, it's beautiful to hear, man. Really, really cool to hear.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't know the full story. I just know obviously Gary Vee's like biggest inspiration. He always says his parents. So I probably got to check that podcast out for sure.
Dude, you for sure do. He also did a podcast with all his best friends, and they like basically sat around a table and talked about what it was like to be friends with Gary when he was like 7 years old. I don't know if you saw that episode. That was the best episode I've ever seen in my life, bro. It was so gratifying to hear that Gary Vee has been that entrepreneur since he was like came out of the womb. Like that man came out with $1 in his mouth.
Crazy. That's crazy. I gotta check that out. It's definitely on my list.
It's the fucking best, dude. Okay, so I want to run through some rapid fire questions here. And if you're in the YouTube spaces, wherever you're at, if you have any questions, drop them in there. Or just rapid fire right now. Do you have a biggest fear, a rational fear or rational fear?
Nothing I can think of, to be honest. No.
So a spider sits on your head, you're good.
I mean, I wouldn't say it's my biggest fear or it's a fear. It's like, obviously I wouldn't be comfortable with the spider on my fucking head, but it's just like, it's whatever,
True. All right. This one's sort of rapid fire. It could get deep depending on like how you take it, I guess. What do you think about when you go on a walk?
That's a great question. I actually just took a walk yesterday. It was a 40-minute walk back from the barbershop. And I was honestly just thinking about bunch of random things like what my wife is going to look like, when am I going to have kids, what I'm going to do next with Seedphrase, who do I want to get on my podcast. And yeah, that whole walk, I literally didn't even pull out my phone, not even once. It was on D&D. And yeah, I just thought about a bunch of random things. And I actually told myself yesterday that I need to take more walks.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a great, dude. So I force myself when I walk to the gym and back. as many times as I can not to listen to anything.
Yeah.
And just really take in the city as it's coming and just like focusing on just bringing my attention back. I'm trying really hard now to practice actively letting go of shit. Like when I feel my chest tighten up, like let that kind of pass and just like breathe the fuck out and start to take out some of this mental clutter that's up here, because it's just taking up too much damn space, dude. It's taking up too much damn space. Do you do anything in that regard for like mindset or not mindset, like meditation stuff? Like, do you do anything like that? Have you ever tried anything like that?
I've tried it. It's not really my thing. I mean, I do pray like a few times a day. I try to pray 5 times a day because I'm Muslim, but I pray a few times a day. That's a form of meditation. I don't journal, but I kind of like, I have goals written on my notebook, and I kind of write things on my notebook like on a week-to-week basis. So I always read through that. And then I would say like listening to music as well is like a form of meditation for me, where I'm not really thinking of anything. I'm just enjoying the music. So those are the things I do, obviously, to get my mind off.
Yeah. You smoke weed, bro?
I don't smoke weed. No.
Dang. Okay. All right. Here's my follow-up question. Should you smoke weed? Not you, but should people stop smoking weed? Just say it. Just say it. Say what you feel.
I'll say this. I personally don't know one successful person that gets faded all the time.
Okay. That's a pretty strong answer right there. But sometimes it could be faded. Sometimes there could be a portion of their day where they're faded.
Times. So if you do it all the time, like if you smoke every day, that's all the time. That's where you fall into. But sometimes I feel like, maybe it could help people, and it has helped people. People have said that.
Yeah.
So
well, it helps in some ways. Like I found for myself, because I'm still doing everything in house, I'll edit and all this stuff. Also, I don't know exactly your time frame. Do you need to get out like right now?
No, I can do a few more minutes.
Okay. I was just going to say, so with weed, what I find interesting is that because I'm doing all my stuff in-house still, the editing and stuff, certain tasks will take 2.5 hours no matter what I do. And I'm like, well, if I already know what to do and it's just me doing it and going up and clipping everything up and exporting it to my phone, then like, fuck it, bro. Like, so I use it there a lot of times because I can't fucking help it because I've been doing it for like 2 years and I'm just bored of editing. I just don't even want to do it anymore. But
I'll tell you this, I've smoked before, and the reason why I don't like it is because it was never consistent. Like sometimes it would put me to sleep, sometimes it would make me creative, sometimes it would make me very. So from there, I was like, why would I even do this, right? Like I'm the type of guy where I feel like I can get to any mental state without taking anything. Like I don't drink, I don't smoke, I need any of that, and like I can go to the club with my friends and I look like the littest, drunkest guy in the group. I haven't even drank a single sip.
Damn, bro. Looks like I need to run over to Miami. I know there will be some NFT events coming in Florida in 2023, so I'm fucking excited for that. Are you going to be at all those events? You're going to be at NFT NYC? You're going to go to NFT LA, stuff like that?
NFT NYC for sure. LA, I'm not too sure yet, but maybe. Then anything that happens in Miami, I'm definitely in here for sure.
Facts. All right, last 2 questions. We're going to pop out of here. Do you have any tattoos?
No tattoos. Clear skin.
Really? Do you want any tattoos? Did you get your wife's name tatted? What if she said, I'll marry you, but you have to get my name tatted on your booty?
Or she's not for me.
Right on. Okay. This is our super quick one. Run me through a quick day in the life. Just give me the big ones. Just give me like the bullet list. What's your day in the life? What, you waking up at 6 or are you waking up at 10? Like what kind of entrepreneur are you?
I wake up 8 hours after whatever time I go to sleep. 7 to 8 hours. There's no specific time. Whenever I go to sleep, 7 to 8 hours, my body's up. Brush my teeth, sit on my desk, work until probably like 2, 3 o'clock. I make a smoothie. And then from there, if there is work, I get back to work. If there's like little time breaks, I usually just fucking watch a podcast. And then from there, I try to hit the gym, eat, go back to sleep, and do it again.
True. Do you love that? Do you love that routine, or are you looking for something different in 2023, you think?
No, I mean, honestly, I love my routine. I love what I do every single day. And like, I can easily just say, hey, today I'm not going to work. I'm going to go fucking play tennis and basketball, which I do that sometimes. And I go to the beach and I have fun. But no, I really do enjoy everything I do every single day. And that's why I keep doing it, even when it doesn't pay.
Hell yeah, man. Hell fucking yeah. This is the final one. I added this at the end because I think it's fun to do. Also, do you have any TV shows you're watching?
None.
Okay. All right. Here's the final question. It's fuck, marry, kill, but it's going to be NFT edition. So it's not going to be fuck, marry, kill. It's going to be FUD, flip, or hodl. FUD, flip, or hodl. So you got 3 options. You can FUD one. You can flip one. You hodl one. We're going to go with Clone X. We're going to go with Doodles. and we are gonna go with what are those? They're like this. They're like the I don't know 5 to 10 range, right? Both of
Yeah.
those projects. Okay, what's another project up in there in the 5 to 10 range? Digidaigaku might be in there. Who is?
I put Pudgy in there.
Oh yeah, Pudgy. Correct, definitely in there. Pudgy. You got Doodles and you got Clone X. You're gonna FUD one. You got a flip one. You got a HODL one. Choose your answer wisely, because I know you probably know some of these people.
I'm gonna HODL Pudgy forever. I'm going to FUD Clone X, unfortunately, even though I own it and I have it, but it's just the reality of it. And I'm gonna flip Doodles because I feel like Doodles has a better opportunity in terms of seeing price action than clones do. I could be wrong there. I probably pissed off a lot of people, but there we go.
All right, well, if you're still watching this, make sure to cancel Mo. It's time for him to have an end in the Web3 space. Dude, well, one, I want to say I really fucking enjoyed this conversation. Would love to have you back on the show because I feel like there's a bunch of topics we didn't even get to. And you're just hella, like, you say things in a really good way. You've got a good, nice way, like, about you. So I'm really glad we get to talk. Do you want to, like, shout anyone out at the end of this podcast? I don't know.
No, just fucking make sure you guys subscribe to our free daily newsletter. Every single morning, we have a 5-minute newsletter about crypto and NFTs. So make sure you guys check that out. Subscribe to my podcast. I just hit 3,000 subscribers, which is really fucking dope. I want to get some more. And then, yeah, make sure to follow me. I'll follow you guys back, and let's fucking grow.
King shit. Let's fucking go, dude. Guys, if you're in the chat, code word, if you're watching this live or not live, all good. This will be posted. If you're not watching this live, it will be posted. So code word, actually, no. Sorry. Code word. That's for the coffee break show. Code word. Y'all already know. You can look, you have two options here. You can either say seed phrase or you can just tell me your seed phrase. I'll accept either one as the code word.
We'll take both.
So you can just DM me your C phrase, no problem, guys. Okay, guys, and if you're in Twitter Spaces, hit that bottom right icon, retweets, likes, all the things help. Thank you so much for being here. Until next time, continue on your Joyage, continue to learn, and be grateful you're alive watching this podcast on Twitter Spaces or YouTube.